Hello my dear students, this is Danish Ramat, lecturer in chemistry, Cornell Group of Institution. I am here online with the topic Organic Chemistry, some basic principles and techniques. Organic chemistry is a branch of chemistry which deals with the study of carbon and its compounds and their properties. So, in order to study their properties, we need to know about its bonding, carbon's bonding with the other elements, such as hydrogen, oxygen, sulfur, even halogens, nitrogen, like that. They form a set of some set of organic compounds. In order to form the compounds, the carbon central atom, that is the carbon, should provide its orbitals for the accumulation of those atoms. Atoms will donate the electron to that carbon and makes the bonding. In order to bind with the other element, carbon should intermix its orbital to provide new set of orbitals having almost same energy. This process is called as hybridization. Hybridization of a carbon atom. Here comes the question, what kind of orbitals will hybridize? First of all, we'll take a look at the carbon, which is having the atomic number 6. Let us write its electronic configuration, which rises as 1s2, 2s2, 2px1, 2py1 and 2pz0. Since there are 3 suborbitals are there in 2p, so I would like to write them as 2px, 2py, 2pz. So here the second shell is the outermost shell, where it contains 2s2, I am talking about 2s2, here 1s2 is there, 2s2 and this is 2p, where single electrons are there in 2px and 2py orbitals. So what happens is, in order to combine with the other elements, here I will take an example of CH4 as a basic example. In order to combine with the hydrogen, this is a ground state electronic configuration. It should excite its electron, outermost electron. So that is the excited state electronic configuration, where this opposite spin having electron is excited to this 2pz orbital. So what happens is 1s2 remains same, here 2s remain with the 1 electron, and that 2px already is there, 2py 1 electron is already there, this electron is shifted to 2pz orbital. So now the number of unpaired electron become 4. Here 1s, 2s, 2px, 2py, 2pz. There are 4 orbitals having unpaired electrons. They will intermix to form a new set of orbitals. Like this is s orbital, these are p orbitals. P orbitals having double shape. If it is on x-axis of that Cartesian coordinate, 3-dimensional Cartesian coordinate, that is called as 2px. On y-axis 2pz, 2py. On z-axis it is a 2pz. So intermixing of orbital. So if three orbitals of p, all the three orbitals of p combined with the one s, it will provide these kind of orbitals of around 4. So 4 hybridized orbitals are there. This where 3 p orbitals are there and one s is there. So it's a sp3 hybridized orbital. There are 4 are there. S is 1, p 3. So 4 orbitals are there, hybridized orbital. So like that, there are almost 3 type of hybridization is there. If only one s is there, it should not be called as a hybridization, because intermixing is not possible for only one orbital. In order to intermix, at least we should have 2 orbitals, so that if one s and one p are intermixed, there is a formation of sp hybridization. If 1s and 2p orbitals are there, that is called as 1s 2p, that is called as sp2. There are 2p are there and 1s is there. If all the orbitals intermix, 1s 3p, and that is called as sp3 hybridization. Let us draw one table here. We will get the idea how to analyze it. So that I am writing type of hybridization here. There are, already I told you, there are sp, sp2 and sp3. 3 types of hybridization for a carbon. So sp3, sp2 and sp. Here, number of orbitals intermixed. 1s is there, 3p are there, so 1 plus 3 is equal to 4. 1s is there, 2p are there, so becomes 3 orbitals. 1s and 1p, there are 2 orbitals are there. So what happens after this formation? The atoms will combine, other atoms will combine, and there is a formation of a bond. There are 2 kinds of bonds again, a covalent bond. One is sigma bond and another one is a pi bond. If straightway overlap takes place, it's a sigma bond. If the sideways overlap takes place, it's a pi bond. Remember that in sp3 hybridization, if 4 orbitals are there, all 4 will form a sigma bond. So that number of orbitals is equal to number of sigma bonds. So number of sigma bonds I would like to write here, and let us write number of pi bonds here. The valence of the carbon is 4. Since I have told you there are 4 unpaired electrons are there, it will have only 4 bonds. Carbon has 4 bonds. Since it has a 4 orbitals in sp3 hybridization, all of them will form, I have already told you that the number of orbitals equal to number of sigma bonds. There are exceptional cases are there, I will tell you. If it is a CH3, that is methyl carbanion. Here we can find out single bond is there, and single bond is nothing but a sigma bond. Single bond is there, sigma bond, single bond is there, sigma bond. There are how many sigma bonds are here? 3 sigma bonds. Since 3 sigma bonds are there here, we should not tell it as a sp2 hybridization. That is a wrong answer. Like, since it has a 1 pair of electron also on a carbon, that is also acting as a 1 orbital. So that yes, P1, P2, P3. So that is a sp3. Some people tell that, sir, as you told, the number of orbitals is equal to number of sigma bonds, but here sigma bonds are 3, but orbitals are 4. This is the exception. I would like to call this as the methyl carbanion. So carbanions have one extra orbital. We should include one extra orbital to that. Okay, fine. So number of sigma bonds, that is the exception. But here I am talking about only the complete molecules, not a carbocation and carboanion. Since 4 orbitals are there, 4 of all of them act as a sigma bonds. 3 sigma bonds, 2 sigma bonds. Number of pi bonds now. Since carbon has a 4 valency, if all 4 bonds are sigma bonds, there is no remnants of the pi bond. Here there are how many? 3. So remaining is 1. So 1 is pi bond right out there. And here in a sp hybridization there are 2 sigma bonds are there. So in 4 bonds, if 2 of them are sigma, another 2 are pi bonds. So including these 2, it should be 4 because carbon has a valency 4. Now let us talk on to, I hope you have taken this information. Here the percentage of S character, we will discuss about that. Percentage of S character. Percentage of S orbital. Percentage, in order to find the percentage, we need to take all the number of orbitals and divide the 100 by that. Since there are 4 orbitals are there, 100 divided by 4 is 25. So each orbital will get 25. 1s is there, 25, 3p, that is 3p are there. Each p will get 25, means p includes the 75% and s includes 25%. So percentage of S character in sp3 hybridization is 25%. And the percentage of the S in sp2 hybridization, there are 3 orbitals are there, 100 divided by 3. That is here the 100 divided by 4. Here 100 divided by 3. There are 2 orbitals are there. 2 orbitals are there. 100 divided by 2. So here what happens? 25% for each orbital. 4 orbitals are there. Here 33.33%. For each orbital it is 33.33. Here it will come 50%. Each orbital will get 50-50 percentage. In 4 orbitals, here S contributes 25, P contributes 75. S contributes 33.33, P there are 2, 66.6. 33.33, here 2 are there, 33.33 plus 33.33. So that gives 66.66%. Here only 2 are there. So in 100, 2 orbitals are there, means 50 is a contribution of S and 50 is a contribution of P. So I would like to write the percentage of S character only. Here that is 33.33%. Here it is a 50%. So remaining is P only. Percentage of P. What is that? So 75%. So you are writing P as 75. Since there are 3 orbitals are there, I have already told you that point. 1 orbital contributes 25. 3 means 25 3 is 75. And here the remaining part is 66.66%. Each orbital contributed as 33.33. So S contributes 33.33 means PR2 in number. So that contributes 66.6. Moreover, it will come around 99.99. The decimal points, the integers after the decimal point, they will go like 99.99. Collectively it comes. So we take it as 100%. If the S contributes 50, so P contributes 50. So percentage of S character is calculated like this one. So how can we understand the hybridization? By looking at the structure of the those carbon compounds. Here we'll take some examples. So first example, that is as expected, that is a methane. First example. Here I will give you some hints. If it is a single bond, it's a sigma bond. Single bond is a sigma bond. In a double bond, one is a straight way that contributes sigma bond, and another one is a side way overlap, that is a pi bond. In triple bond, straight way overlap is sigma bond and the remaining two are pi bonds. See here in this structure, if I draw the structure of methane, one carbon, meth stands for one carbon, and it has a sigma bonds, and that all single bonds will be A and E. You know that double bond is a E and E and triple bond is a Y and E. So meth is a single bond and it contains all sigma bonds. That is a single bond, A and E. So sigma bond, single bond is a sigma bond, single bond is a sigma bond. So for carbon there are 4 bonds and all of them are, 4 of them are sigma bonds. Carbon has a 4 bonds. All 4 are sigma, means there is no remnants of a pi. So there is no pi bonds. Thus it is a 4 orbital. And 4 orbitals are nothing but S is 1. Always S is a 1. So P are 3. If S is a 1, so remaining orbitals are 3. So sp3 hybrid. So this carbon in that methane is a sp3 hybridized carbon. So this is the example. If I take one more example, like second example, let us suppose ethine. Ethine. Here is the root word eth. Eth stands for how many carbons? 2 carbons. And remaining is Y and E. That is give the information that gives us the information that carbon to carbon triple bond is there. So remaining are hydrogens. See for each carbon, check out whether there are 4 bonds are there or not. If the number of bonds extend, think that you are doing the wrong thing. So for this carbon, see there are 4 bonds are there or not. 1, 2, 3 and 4. I already told you, in a triple bond, middle one is a sigma bond and sideway overlap are pi bonds. So this is a sigma bond. For this carbon I am now calculating about. So this is, let us suppose this is the first carbon, this is the second carbon. So C1 I am talking about, the hybridization of the C1 I am talking about. So middle one is a sigma bond, this sideway overlap is pi. Sideway overlap is pi, and this one is also pi. Middle one is sigma and these two side overlap are pi. And here is also one bond is there. If any hydrogen comes, hydrogen valence is 1. So single bond is there for that. Consider it's a, take it granted, it's a sigma bond only. So C1, 4 bonds are there. This is only sigma bond. This is also a sigma bond, and these two are pi bonds. So there are, for this carbon, there are 2 sigma bonds and 2 pi bonds. 2 sigma, 2 pi. 4 are there. Okay. I told you one hint. Number of sigma bonds is equal to number of orbitals. 2 sigma means 2 orbitals. S is always there, yes. And 1 orbital it becomes. And 1 more orbital. So remaining is P only. So it is a sp hybridization. C1 carbon is sp hybridized. C2. Coming to the C2 part now. Triple bond CH. Okay, C2 part. C1. It also contains 4 bonds. With a hydrogen 1, with this C1 carbon there are 3. I already told you straight away, that is middle bond is a sigma. These side are pi bonds. And this is sigma. So how many sigma bonds are there? 2 sigma. How many pi bonds are there for that? Pi. And 2 sigma bonds are there means 2 orbitals become sp hybridized. This is about the finding up of the hybridization of the carbon atom. Let us take one more example, that is third example. What if it contains a double bond? Many students will go along in these things. So it's a double bond means it's a sp2 hybridization. That shouldn't happen. You should look into number of sigma bonds and pi bonds. Then only you give the answers. I saw inside the class many students will do like, since it's a double bond, it's sp2 hybridized. It's not like that, I will tell you. This is, the double bond it's a sigma bond and this guy is a pi bond. And this is a sigma and this one is a pi bond. 2 sigma bonds are there, 2 pi bonds are there. So 2 sigma bonds are there means 2 orbitals and that is sp hybridized. So that's all about the hybridization. Now here one more concept that comes into the mind is how to look into the attached groups, the substituents, where the carbon contains number of hydrogens. CH4 is a molecule, it is not a substituent, and that is called as a methane. If there are 3 hydrogens, carbon cannot have 3 bonds in a neutral form. It should be attached with some chain, carbon chain. So here 1 valency, here 3 valency. If it contains a 3 hydrogen attached to the carbon, that is called as a methyl group. So I have not written a group here because methane is not a group, methane is a molecule. So we have written completely methane as a molecule. Here this is a group which is attached to a carbon chain. So this is called as a methyl group. If it is CH2 containing how many hydrogens? 2 hydrogens and 2 valencies are there. Here also it can extend, here also it can extend, or it can extend on both sides. People can notify these things, like there are 2 notifying things are there. We'll take only one. So this is called as methylene group. This is called as methylene group. If it is only CH, this is called as methylidene group. Here I have removed 1 hydrogen. From here to here I have removed 1 more hydrogen and added 1 valence extra. From here to here I have removed another hydrogen and added the valency. So it can extend from 3 ways, its chain formation. And here I will remove 1 more. So remaining is only carbon, and it doesn't have any name like this. It's a carbon, tetravalent carbon. Let's move into the next concept, nomenclature of the organic compounds. There are 2 naming systems are there, namely trivial naming, it also called as common naming. One more naming is there which is called as a systematic naming culture, which is formed by the number of scientists who are in International Union for Pure and Applied Chemistry. It's a kind of organization or a group which makes the rules in order to name the chemical compounds or research related to those chemical compounds. So first of all, trivial naming. It is based on the source, property or some other reasons. I will tell you the examples. Formic acid. In ancient days, this formic acid used to be extracted by crushing the red ends. What happens after crushing the red ends? One liquid comes out. That liquid is nothing but the formic acid. If we are bitten by the red ants, there is a kind of irritation occurs. That is due to the injection of the formic acid by those red ants bite. So in Latin, the formicus means red ant. And now one more example is glucose. Glucose is based on its property of having the sweetness. And now the acetic acid, where the acetum means vinegar, and urea or uric acid, which used to be extracted from the urine. Thus, these are based on their sources and this is based on their property. Like that, trivial naming is given. Trivial naming doesn't have any perfect reasons, it will not follow one method. So thus, this is not practiced uniformly throughout the world. The only thing which has rules, the given compound should name like this systematically, that is followed by the IUPAC naming. IUPAC name contains three main principal parts. They are prefix, then comes a root word or word root, then comes suffix. In the precise form, prefix is a name given to substituent. Root word is a name given to number of carbon atoms in the parent chain. Suffix is a name given to functional group. In extended form, there are again two prefixes, which I am calling it as secondary prefix and primary prefix. Here, root word doesn't have any primary and secondary. Root word is a single name given to a number of carbon atoms in the parent chain. So, word root remains the same. I've already told you that prefix is a name given to substituent. Root word is a name given to number of carbon atoms in the parent chain. Suffix is a name given to functional group. So here, secondary suffix, prefix is divided into secondary suffix and primary suffix, and here word root. Suffix has divided again into two, primary suffix and secondary suffix. Here let us go with that. Here it's a name given to the functional group of least preference. If there are more than one functional group, so we need to give the preferences that I am going to discuss later. So preferential functional group is named in secondary suffix, but the atom or group of atom having the least preference than the main functional group, that will be written in secondary prefix. And one more is there, atom or group of atom outside the parent chain, that is there. And primary prefix is the name given to explain nature of carbon chain. Here the primary prefixes such as cyclo is used if the compound is cyclic in nature. The compound is cyclic in nature. Cyclobutane, cyclohexane. And sometimes spiro is used only if single carbon is sharing between two of those rings. Here one ring is there, one more ring is there. Here one carbon is sharing between these two rings. And sometimes bicyclo is also used. Bicyclo is only used when two carbons are shared between two rings. Here two carbons are shared between these two rings. Here single carbon is sharing, here two carbons are sharing. So cyclo, spiro, bicyclo, and even sometimes N is used. N stands for a straight chain. Root word is a name given to number of carbons. Not all carbons, only those carbons in parent chain. In order to name an organic compound, we should choose the parent chain first. So the number of carbons lying in the parent chain will come under the word root. Other all will come under the prefix. If that carbon contains in the functional group, that will come under secondary suffix. So now primary suffix. This will tell about the carbon to carbon bonding nature. Carbon to carbon bonding nature. If the carbon to carbon single bond is there, the primary suffix such as AN is used. Carbon to carbon double bond are there, the ENE primary suffix is used. And if carbon to carbon triple bonds are there, the suffix YNE is used. And coming to the point, that is secondary suffix. It is the name given to the highest preference functional group. So this is the extended format of the IUPAC naming. If you want to know about the complete idea of this extended form, you need to solve many of the examples. Then only you will get the complete idea. So solving more problems for the IUPAC naming is like getting the perfection.